You almost went to the brink of bankruptcy 4 times.
Yep.
When COVID happened, you sort of steamrolled through COVID.
As it became longer and longer, it became clear this can become super threatening to the company.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. Today our guest is Bahram Akradi, who's the chairman and founder of Lifetime. Lifetime is the largest luxury gym in the country. Yes, bigger than Equinox by revenues, members, and locations. But more importantly, Bahram has become the go-to savior for developers and owners across the country for retail and malls. Bahram, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm glad to be here.
Bahram, you have a very Darwinian way of looking at corporate America.
Yep.
You think that if people don't adapt, businesses don't adapt, they're going to die. How has Lifetime adapted?
Look, I think we get opportunities to adapt all the time. Sometimes when things are smooth, then adaptation can be nice and slow. When you go through seismic changes throughout the history of Earth, the species that adapt quickly with that seismic change will survive. Those who don't make it. We've been through some major events during the 35 years of Lifetime. At first it was around 2000. I had 6 clubs under construction, and literally overnight, the debt to EBITDA adjustment went from 5.5 times to 3.5 times. And so that was a massive compression of credit where you had to somehow figure out how to get things going. In 2008, 2009, when we had the Great Recession, there was once again the next big time for big adaptation. So you had a massive drop in memberships. The attrition rates had gone up during that one period. Other recessions really don't affect our business, but the Great Recession was great. And each of these times, we've taken that challenge and figure out how do we need to pivot and how fast do we need to pivot in order to kind of make it through. And then what has happened as a result of those pivots, the company has always gotten stronger and more robust. And that is what I believe you have to do. And particularly now, you and I talked a long time back, particularly about AI. It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when you see how AI is moving, I think this next adaptation out of AI revolution is one that I think is going to take just about everybody off guard.
The last seismic shift, would you say that was COVID for you guys?
Oh my God, yes.
So what happened with COVID? You have all of these gyms across the country. COVID happens. You had to shut down some of them. And what was the process?
So luckily, not for us, we didn't have to shut any of our clubs during COVID. And we have a couple different protections. First of all, we're across the country. We're in urban areas, we're in semi-urban areas, we're in suburban areas. We have large format clubs, smaller club format. We also own roughly about $3.5 billion worth of fee-owned real estate within the company. So that's about today 1/3 of our assets are still owned real estate. So that's a lot of equity sitting in the business. It's not just us, but you look at Equinox, you look at other large operators that we had more than 500 employees.
Well, you have over 40,000 employees.
At the time, yes, we had like close to 36,000. Now we're back again over 44,000 employees. But again, we basically were told by the government that, hey, you got to shut down or you're going to be completely restricted from doing your business the way that you can make money.
Right.
Which lasted 2 full years. It lasted from March 16, 2020, all the way till April of 2022. We had restrictions and all sorts of pressure and couldn't run the business normal. But initially, our revenues went from damn near 200 million a month to zero.
Right.
And so EBITDA went from 40 million to minus 40 million the next month.
Right.
So when you look at that, that's sort of a tsunami hit. That's an asteroid hit. It's not a normal change. And It was an opportunity to reevaluate everything that was working, to persist and do more of it.
Yeah.
And almost 28, 29 years since the inception of the company, all the things that were just dated.
Yeah.
And you were sort of legacy stuck to it.
Yeah.
Right? It was opportunity to cold turkey say, we're done with those. We're going to make those changes. No more promotions. No more salespeople. We're not going to sell memberships like a used car. We're going to treat this business first class. That
happened in 2022. So that's like almost 30 years after you started the business.
Yep. I mean, all the things I had started myself, like the whole sales engine.
Yeah.
I shut it down. And I said, okay, we're going to focus on desirability and make sure the desirability of the product is such that we don't have to have salespeople and we don't have to have advertisement.
You guys have no salespeople?
We have no salespeople, not a one.
And yet you have the highest membership in the country for luxury gyms.
We have right now the highest retention of members we've had in the history of the company.
Wow.
That's because right now the entire focus from top to bottom for the company is to focus on desirability for the customer. So we look at everything that the customer wants and uses in the club, and we check and see if is the class schedule desirable, is the performer desirable, is the space desirable, and if we provide a desirable product for you, why wouldn't you come in?
How more desirable can a gym be? And one of the things I like about Lifetime is that you go in there, you usually have basketball courts, you have racket courts, you have pools, and of course you have the gyms and stuff, but how much more different can you make a gym other than adding those, activities?
Well, look, I think in every category, you can basically look at the hotel business. You can go to some, kind of a stay-in concept, there's no frills for maybe $79 or $100 a night, and you can go somewhere else and spend $2,000 a night. But then you get a full service, you get all the amenities. Lifetime provides the full service, full scale. We want to make sure if you come out there by yourself or with your family, everything you guys want to do, you can do under one roof, and you get the best product.
And if you had to be specific about that.
Lifetime is the largest provider of pickleball, today about north of 700 courts across the country, but we also have all the other things to go with it.
Right.
Tennis, we're the largest provider of tennis in the country. Full-service spas, we have more full-service spas than anybody else times 10.
Yeah.
In every category, we're focused on making sure that product is the best it can be.
You're famous for saying that your gyms are not just clubs, they're athletic country clubs.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I think the whole notion of a gym, in my mind, is a place that you go pump iron. You go work out, maybe you do some classes, but it's just fitness category only. And we have 70 locations with chiropractic, physical therapy. We have full service, kind of a longevity doctors and sort of with GLP-1s or hormone replacement therapy. We have all, basically it's all aspects of your healthy living and healthy aging.
And now you guys have adopted the live, work, play model. Right. Can you explain that?
After we went private in 2015, the next idea we had was to basically go to the malls that had challenged with too many anchors, that they were no longer viable, to come up with a model to provide a big scale traffic. Lifetime brings 2,000 to 3,000 visits per day of very affluent customer base. So it's actually a game changer for that mall destination. You can fill the rest of the mall off of our traffic. So we did that. The next phase was to really build a Lifetime work concept, which was elevated co-working, first class, just like our athletic clubs are, sort of a four-season Ritz-Carlton execution of co-working. But the differentiation was it's attached to a full-service athletic club so that you have all the services that is available for there. And then I expanded that to Lifetime Living, where we basically built a number of apartment units attached in a high-rise And all of them have been working exceptionally well.
And they rent for a premium over
They rent for a premium.
within the development.
They ramp faster, and they have the least amount of retention relative to any other apartment in the market.
So you should do more apartments.
Well, we are in at least 20 discussions. So we're working on towers across the country where there would be apartments at 70, 80,000 square feet, lifetime club, maybe larger, maybe a little smaller, a beach club, all of those. We're working on so many of these projects right now.
I remember when 2 years ago when we first met, you told me that pretty much every developer, every major developer in the country was calling you and begging you to come into their development. So when did that start to happen? Obviously, you guys are a major retailer, so there's a lot of interest from them. But like, then you became an actual savior for a lot of these guys.
Well, look, there are friendship and partnerships that we have forged. I wouldn't want to use the term begging. I think as a partnership, it's a win-win approach that I want to put to play at all times.
That's generous of you.
No, I really do. I really want to have. I know it's not New York-like, but it is Midwestern model. Is to try to come up with a model that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right. Sandeep, when he was with GGP, was a brilliant mind that basically saw the opportunity, and we started working on. David Simon is a good friend. I absolutely appreciate him, but he's been a phenomenal partner to me and Lifetime by so many locations. So yes, we help them and they help us. It's a symbiotic relationship. But when we look at the office building that needs revamping, potentially you could convert some of the office to certain portion of the amenities that we offer. And that could help not only is taking some of the square footage that is sitting empty, but also helps the rest of it kind of get leased out faster. So
because you bring life to it.
Bring some energy to it. So whether if it's office building, apartment, resis, or hotel combination with a club, all of these things will work. And then as you think about building something that is actually naturally and intuitively environmentally friendly, is the full village concept, building a comprehensive complex of live, work, play, actually building it that is fully branded, cohesive execution for the customer, where the customer isn't dealing with different companies to do their transaction. It's all in one. It's friendly to the customer. It also cuts 50-60% of the traffic.
Does that exist right now?
Oh yeah, we have a Lifetime Living, Lifetime Work club, and there's a Trader Joe in it with 495 units in Coral Gables.
That's the one you did with Heinz.
Yeah, with Heinz. It was initially with a different group. They sold to Heinz. But the initial concept that I had for Lifetime Living is actually on our own piece of land in Henderson, Las Vegas. That facility today brings in about 1.8 times rent per square foot that the other apartments are bringing in Vegas. It has less than 10% attrition rate. Nobody leaves. So it's just phenomenal execution. We did one with another partner in Burlington, Mass, next to our Burlington club. Same thing. They're all hugely successful.
And how do you decide what location is right for you?
That depends on our rebuilding. That was just explaining. We also do 40, 50,000 square feet clubs when it makes sense in the urban markets. But typically, I would say 80, and in the suburbs, is 80 to 120,000 indoor plus outdoor. But it all depends on where it's at. In the urban markets, which like in Manhattan right now, we're basically looking at every specific market, and as you know, here is 4 blocks, 5 blocks, 3 blocks, and then you have to just make sure you have enough traffic and population in that, because nobody engages in content.
And you also have to be able to afford, because you're a premium club, right?
So we basically run the model. I started 30 some years ago by going to universities and radio stations, TV stations to get information on psychographics. Of course, you could, get the information on demographics. Today, you just get all of that come up in a computer software. So we study every market by prisms.
So if you're in a market where you have 2-3 developers coming to you to build a lifetime, how do you decide which one to pick, and what are some of the perks that they offer you?
It's deal by deal, right? It's always supply demand. There may be an opportunity in a location where we really want to be in, and the market's tight, so we have to give a little, right? And then there are times where there is just a lot of real estate available in a market, and we know it still works for us, and now that becomes a competitive situation where we can get the best, we can work the best deal, which developer gives us the best opportunity to work with.
What does that look like? They build it out for you and they give you free rent? What are some of the examples of the deals that you're doing?
Some of the developers need higher rent just to make their economics work. So they want somebody who's going to pay them a bigger rent, but they're willing to do all of the TIs for them.
Right.
We're not going to play games with our landlords. Our landlords know that and appreciate that.
Right.
So, company is just at that BB credit rating. So if they want to have a highest credit tenant with the best history of paying and the best history of the operation, then they come to Lifetime. And so
the thinking with most gyms is to get as many members as possible. Yeah. But you have a thinking that you actually cap your memberships.
Yes.
And I heard that your Tampa location actually has a wait list of 10,000 people.
Yes.
So why not just open up another club there?
Well, because it's impossible to find. I worked to get that site for years and years and years. I was waiting to get that particular location.
Yeah, apparently it was a good location.
It's an amazing, well, it's become way better than it used to because it's on Harbor Island, just sort of a excluded from everything else. But then there used to be downtown Tampa, which was sort of trashy and frumpy.
It's changed a lot.
And now it's the hottest thing that there is. So, and it's basically, when we worked on deals in downtown Tampa, and it's expensive, it's almost, the math doesn't work.
Right.
So once we were able to work this deal, once again, this deal is a function of an operator who was there that wasn't paying rent.
Yeah.
A landlord who has a relationship with us and we've paid our rent to them.
Right.
So the landlord says, okay, this guy aren't paying rent. They're going to give him their notice. They're going to kick him out. And then we work a deal with that landlord. So again, relationships matter.
So you've changed your models a few times. What is another model that you're actively sort of exploring right now?
Right now, what we're really working on is the total aspects of both physical and digital. Lifetime digital subscription. It's free. It's right now, we launched it as a free subscription. Again, you can see on-demand exercise, you can get streaming exercises for everything, like the other companies are doing.
It's one of the top 5 apps for health apps on Apple. Right?
It's we made it free last February. We're just past 1.8 million subscribers, and we are continuing to pour more energy and more programming into that, from meditation, like I said, to education programming, and then it has. We have an AI component. Right now, it's restricted to members of the club only.
Yeah.
But by end of this year, we'll actually provide the AI to the free subscribers.
You have a name for your AI. What's the name?
Lacy.
Lacy,
which
stands for a Midwest name, right?
It's actually Lifetime AI Companion.
Okay.
I like the name Lacy.
You started this company when you were 31 years old. And throughout that time, you almost went to the brink of bankruptcy 4 times.
Yep.
When COVID happened, you sort of steamrolled through COVID.
No, we didn't steamroll through anything. Right. I think I would never say steamrolled. It was really one of the most interesting times because one day, I'm sitting in my office looking at the parking lot, which we have the 2 corporate office buildings and then a large 100,000+ square feet club with it. That parking lot is always packed.
Right.
And then the next day I went there, and I actually never worked from home. I went to office every single day during this period. But for a very long period of time, I was sat in that office and I looked out the parking, there was nobody, not one
Right.
car on it. And when you look at that and you see how the business got disrupted, when it first happened, I figured 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, shut down, no problem.
Right.
As it became longer and longer, it became clear this can become super, super threatening to the company. And I have amazing partners, Leonard Green, TPG, the rest of the partners we have in the company. We acted immediately. When the clubs were shut down, we paid rent all the way through the COVID. We never stopped paying rent in lieu of that.
So you have enough cash in reserve to.
And then my partners and I, we put another $110 million of cash extra in the company. We had the ability to take care of every employee, pay every bill, pay every landlord, and get through the process.
Just soon after that, gyms became incredibly popular and memberships went through the roof.
You know what? I think it took some time. It wasn't once the restrictions were completely lifted across everywhere by April of 2022. It took from there till pretty much end of the year for the consumer to forget about the awkwardness and the not wanting to touch something or wanting to wear masks or watching somebody else and saying, you're not wearing a mask. All of those kind of weird things sort of kind of went away by beginning of 2023. And 23, 24, I predict has been very, very well for all the club operators, not just us, that have been running their business correctly.
And when you did come to the brink the last time, what was going through your head?
Well, this is a great question. I have never focused, I've never allowed in my mind the thought of what if we can't make it work. I've never allowed that. I don't think that way. Maybe it's my weakness, but I, at all times, I believe somehow we're going to get through, and I keep moving my feet and figure out what's the next move I'm going to make.
But you also had Northern Oil and Gas to fall on. A lot of people don't know you're also the chairman of Northern Oil and Gas. In the whole process of doing, in the whole process of running Lifetime, you are also the chairman of Northern Oil and Gas. Which you told me you don't know anything about oil and gas, but somehow you're the chairman of it.
Well, it was really an interesting sort of a path to get into it. As I mentioned, we're in a non-op business. It resembles a lot like a non-op real estate, kind of triple net lease business.
You guys did almost like $1.5 billion EBITDA with 50 people.
Yep, exactly. It's an amazing team, great CEO, great board. And so that company does great. But interesting thing is, when we got shut down, of course, with everything shutting down, oil went down to minus 37.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So those are some really interesting moments in time, but luckily, the whole planet has figured out how to get through these things.
Bahram, thank you so much for being here today. Nice.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Folks, thank you very much. Tune in next time for another episode of Coffee Talk.